Alright guys, since nobody watches my videos past the 1 minute 30 second mark, we are just getting right into the video, going to DO3D to get some 3D files for the OG Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Green Ranger helmet. So here I am, opening them up, kind of give them a quick run through, making sure I actually want to buy them, which, you know, spoiler, I already did. But then once I knew I wanted them, I navigated down to my taskbar, we opened up Mesh Mixer. Here we have one version of the files, and up here we can see it's main no buckle green MMPR. So the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers have like buckles on the side, but I decided to take that off. I didn't want to print that out since it didn't have a function anymore because of the magnet holes in the back. But I cut it up into 3 pieces because that whole thing was not fitting on my Ender 3 S1 Plus, even though it is 300 millimeters cubed. But here we have 3 pieces, and then obviously there's some smaller parts that need to get glued on later. But this is what we got so far. And then I opened up Cura, and I already have a couple of the parts sliced up. This is the main dome piece. Yeah, dome front, that's what I named it. Dome F is for dome front, because that's the front half, or front, I guess 90% of it. But I laid it flat, where I did the plane cut in Mesh Mixer, and I laid it, yeah, did my best to make it flush with the build plate. Now those red spots you saw, if you're not familiar with Cura, are the spots that the program knows are going to need support from below. And once we switch to the layer preview, you can see all the supports that were generated by the slicer program. So I turn on tree supports. I've always found those to be the most reliable. And giving you a quick 360 here. It's very slow because, you know, it's hard to render for my dinky laptop. But yeah, here you can see the top as the layers come together, and what you're seeing there is some top layering. It's 3D printers, you know, master's term for when the top layers kind of start getting not as smooth, but that's going to be the hardest part to sand out later. Alright, here's a big jump in time. We have the first piece off the printer. As you can see, I had to use different rolls of filament. I was at my apartment, and I was running really low on filament, so halfway through, like, one would run out, and I'd just switch it out and let the extruder keep going. But yeah, then once I took it off, the plate, I actually had to crack off all the supports, and I'll just kind of stay silent here, let you guys enjoy the crackling and the separations here. Yeah, that shit was clean. Anyway, here you can see that it is absolutely huge on my head, but it's not actually for me. I'm making this for an uncle of mine as a Christmas present, so I'm on a bit of a time crunch to get it done. You're seeing this definitely after Christmas. Anyway, second part to come off the printer was the back piece. This is just the part of the dome that, you know, goes around the back of your head and most of your neck, really. But yeah, I printed this in 2 colors. I don't have a multicolor printer. I just had to switch out the colors halfway through. Now we're back home. This is me on Christmas break, getting some sanding done. So this is going to be a large section of the video, but this is me just kind of getting those first steps down, and I'm definitely going to have to put this into a time lapse. But yeah, so here we go with the most annoying, but also the most important part of the 3D printing / prop making process. What you're seeing now is me sanding down the edges of these parts here, so that when I do eventually fuse the front and back of the dome, I don't have to, you know, fill in this huge seam. I just want to be a lot more flush than they are when they are raw prints. So, a little bit of an update. My extremely cheap soldering iron broke. Been using this for about a year now, and it was 15 bucks, so, you know, it's bound to happen sooner or later. But now is really a bad time to have a break, because I have the main Green Ranger helmet done, like most of it assembled, and then like the back piece here, like there's supposed to be magnets and there's holes for that, like that's supposed to be like separate, but this top piece right here that I couldn't fit onto my print bed in one shot when I made like the big dome part, that's right here. So no soldering iron, and I don't like just gluing the prints together because that's really weak. And in full honesty, I usually don't use glue at all because like it's just hard to keep it aligned. Like if you have a big old seam like this and you like line up one side with glue and the other side's like slightly misaligned, because like these plastic parts, they flex, you know, it's kind of hard to just glue them in place when they're like, there's a big gap between or there's like a big separation between the two seams that you want to put together. So I usually just kind of hold it in place and like melt one side together with what I did here. And then I do the other side, you know? So no soldering iron means we're gonna have to improvise. So I don't do a lot of stuff with foam anymore, but this is my hot glue gun. And we're gonna see if this tip end, you know, where the hot glue comes out, we're gonna see if that gets hot enough to fuse these prints together. So I'm gonna plug this in, let it heat up, and see what happens. And pause. So as you can see, that's me with my hot glue gun up to its max temperature, and I did spend 10 minutes of my life using it to try to fuse these two plastic pieces together. And it did work for a time, but I'm not gonna put you guys through the painstakingly slow process of how I did that. And it doesn't matter anyway, because what I ended up doing was going out to my local hardware store and spending about 30 bucks on a new soldering iron that was actually a pretty decent product. So anyway, I used that to fuse the pieces together, and now I've got a new tool for the old toolbox. So yeah, we're better off for it. This is me just getting my money's worth out of this can of filler primer. But yeah, I had to push my finger down pretty hard on the nozzle to get anything out. It was almost done, so this is just me. This is really just footage of me being cheap. So yeah, let's get back to the build. All right, so we've got one coat of filler primer on the Green Ranger helmet, and then the really bad spots. I mean, not bad, but the really layer heavy spots. We've got some of this Alex Flex flexible spackling. Yeah. Kind of just rubbed on there. What I usually do, you can really see it over here, I just get a big lump of it on my finger, kind of spread it around in like an oval motion until it really just fills in the cracks, and then I sand it back down later on. So yeah, I mean, this is far from being completely smooth. I mean, if you've seen those old Power Ranger helmets, you know they were pretty pristine. They reflect light pretty darn well. So we got a long way to go before we're to that point. But yeah, same deal with this. Or actually, no, not yet. I got another pass of sanding. Then I'll probably put on some little bit of spackling in these spots right here. Here we see me using a 120 grit piece of sandpaper to knock down the excess filler on that back panel piece for the helmet. And it's also a Phase 2 clone I'm working on in the background there too. I might update you on that in another video. But yeah, 120 grit, sanding it down, and then this is the same thing I did for the rest of the main helmet. But I take that spackling and then I spread it around in all the spots that had some really atrocious layer lines, cover them up with that thick filler, that I can sand it down really easily. I mean, sanding it is like nothing, but yeah, it just makes the process a little bit faster, and it's always smart to use something other than filler primer. This is kind of a skip in time because all that spackling that was on the cheeks and the dome there has all been sanded off. But if you guys really need a demo on how to sand off spackling, then maybe you shouldn't be watching this video in the first place. Or if you do want to see me do that, then I'll make my videos longer. Just let me know. But yeah, this was my final pass of filler primer before I got into the actual painting stage. Or no, yeah, it went priming here, and then I was able to sand it one more time, get it nice and smooth, and then I put on the first coat of green. There were actually several, obviously there are multiple colors, you probably saw from the thumbnail on this helmet, but there's me just kind of testing the smoothness of the helmet overall. And also right there, that's hung up on that batting tee is an Iron Man helmet. You'll see a video about that, probably pretty close to this one. But yeah, nothing too much to say here. I'm using that sanding sponge that's really makes things nice and smooth and gets it prepped for painting. So yeah, let's move on. One last thing I want to shoehorn in here is how I use this microfiber cloth to wipe off all the extra dust that had been left behind from the sanding. But yeah, that was our last step before we put on that first coat of green paint. Alright, and here we are finally at the actual painting stage. Here we have a gloss meadow green from Rust-Oleum. I picked this up from my local hardware store. Fun fact, I'm actually from the Midwest. So one of the most common hardware stores out here is a place called Lowe's. I'm not sure how common those are outside of my own region, but they always have exactly what I need for the most part. That's where I pick up all my rattle cans, a lot of my fillers. But anyway, I decided it was best to go with a gloss paint here just because of how shiny those original MMPR helmets were. Even to the modern day, you really don't find any Power Rangers helmets with a matte finish, at least none that I can think of. But as for the actual painting, I did put on about 4 light coats of that green spray paint. That's just what it took to finally get full coverage and make sure like none of the gray or the black from the actual print or the filler was showing through. This is the helmet after those 4 coats, and I actually forgot about this. So it was kind of starting to look like an orange peel. I think that's a term that Frankly Built uses. But you can see those spots where it looks kind of almost like a football skin. I don't even know. But I wasn't really happy with that, so I decided to go back and put on, I think it was about 1 or 2 more coats, just to make sure it was smooth and shiny and had the desired effect I wanted. Apologies in advance, but I don't have a lot of footage of this, but I did end up using a Hobart face shield for the visor of the helmet. I cut it in half, and then I taped on the outside like you see there. Then what I did is use a silver Sharpie to trace the actual shape of that visor opening from the inside, and then I would go on to cut it out with those scissors, and then I kind of just taped it in later. You'll see what it looks like once it's in the helmet at the end of the video, but yeah, just kind of a quick run through of how I did that. Now this is me actually painting the main body of the helmet. I think I did end up doing about 4 coats, just like with that back hatch. But what I'm going to do now is just kind of let you guys sit back and enjoy this painting montage, because after the green paint goes on, we have to put on the silver paint. And that is where my skills with masking tape were really put to the test, but I won't explain that now. I'll just kind of let my work speak for itself later in the video. Alright, what you're seeing now is me gesturing to the open mouth hole section of the Green Ranger helmet, and what is missing is this thing right here, which is that mouth covering that you see in those classic helmets. Now, let's see, this was printed with black PLA filament, and I'm just going to give it 1 or 2 coats of that Krylon metallic. I think it's silver metallic is what the actual color is, but they're going to use that same color on the teeth section as I mentioned earlier.
Morphin Time, and you're in danger, cause now it's time to meet the Green Ranger. See, I'm a bad boy, the kind that the ladies like. Green with evil, you can see it right in my eyes. Martial arts master, bringer of disaster. Pink and yellow ranger, I'ma give it to him.